morning. Today, with this lake background, this large lake at Tuttle Creek, I was thinking about the life of Jonah, and particularly the prayer that happens in chapter 2. It's an interesting prayer. I don't know the oddest places you've ever prayed from, but for Jonah, I think it was probably when he was drowning at the place of drowning. At least the Bible records he's in this moment of drowning, and then what even happens worse is he's swallowed by a large fish, the Bible says. And it's in these odd places where he's praying. Where's the oddest place you've prayed from? Maybe sometimes odd equals desperate. Certainly for Jonah it did. He's running from God in chapter 1 of Jonah. And I would encourage you, actually, if you wanted to, this little small minor prophet, it's 4 chapters. It's not very long, and you could probably read it in 15 minutes. I would encourage you to read that and watch the progression that happens. In chapter 1, he's a running rebel. He's a running rebel in chapter 1. In chapter 2, he's a remorseful repentant. In chapter 3, there's a radical revival that happens within the people, this very violent people from Nineveh. And then the 4th one is he's rudely resentful. But in chapter 2, there's a sense where he has grown. He grew from chapter 1 to chapter 2. He's running in chapter 1. It says, the story begins, says, God calls Jonah, son of Amittai, to go to Nineveh, and he goes the exact opposite way. Chapter 3 starts the same way, after the prayer. And this time Jonah goes. But chapter 2 is a very interesting place. He's there and he's running from God. And as he's actually probably coming to the full extent of some of his stupid decisions, he finds himself in a very odd place. He's thrown overboard and he's beginning to drown. He's just kind of given up on life. He's like, okay, I deserve this. And then he prays. And as he prays, he meets God, the one who doesn't give up, especially in places where we find ourselves, where we've done stupid things and we feel like we're drowning. He meets him in ways that changes Jonah. He meets God in new ways in that place. And Jonah recounts speaking of his love and talking about his grace in that, and how stupid it is to run after worthless idols. Somehow, maybe in the process of his near-death experience and his decisions that he's thinking about, Jonah becomes aware for the first time of maybe things he's ordered his life around that aren't of God and are actually pretty empty. He returns to God in that moment, and God is there to receive him. I don't know where you've been, the craziest places you've ever prayed from, but I would like to ask that question to you. Where are the craziest places you've ever prayed from? Prayed from as he's drowning, feeling like he's drowning. He talks about seaweed being around his head and going down. His life was ebbing away. I mean, he's ready to die. He thinks he's dead. And then God delivers or provides a way out. I wonder for you if you have that type of story in your life, or you're able to recall that. But I would like you to ask God in this moment, where's the craziest place I've ever prayed to you? And may God bring to memory places where you or I have been in real need, and in those places of need, perhaps understood God's grace in new ways. Jonah is a great book. I would encourage you to read it. I think there's lots of ways in our lives that can interact with it, and particularly today, looking at chapter 2, and the prayer that comes from desperation, and the way in which God still meets us in these prayers of desperation. I would encourage you to have a conversation with God now. Where's the craziest place we've ever talked, God? And then keep praying. We'll see you tomorrow.